Good morning and welcome to Kramer's Corner with Daily Technical Update. It is the 1st of April, so it's the first day of April month, and it's also the first day of the second quarter. So we ended the quarter, and let's have a look at what happened yesterday in the US market. We saw especially the tech sector bouncing strongly. We saw here the tech sector, and let's just switch to the daily chart. So it was a strong bounce, as we can see here, but again, do remember that we are in a bearish trend, and it was merely just a strong bounce, but it was a strong bounce indeed. But still, we can see how it's been depressed for quite some time, and it doesn't mean that we are just going into a bullish trend. And if we're looking at some of the other sectors, well, we saw a bounce here also in industrials. We saw a bounce in the where is it? Here we are, material sector, and we saw a bounce also in the retail sector. So a bounce all around. However, one of the sectors that are in a slightly bearish, bullish trend is agricultural, which we have been talking about for quite some time. So they look quite strong at the moment, but most of the other sectors are still in the depressed state, and it will need a bit more to really turn around. What we also saw yesterday, of course, we saw some profit taking continuing in the oil and gas exploration and in the oil service sector. If we're looking at some of the single stocks that also bounced yesterday, we saw Tesla that bounced strongly, almost 5%. But again, remember, we are in a bearish trend, so be careful not to catching a falling knife. Nvidia also bounced from the support after actually closing below the support there at 167, but bounced strongly. It will take something to establish a bullish trend, so we are not out of the wood yet. We can actually adjust this one. I actually dip to this low there, 164 key support. The Microsoft also 3.3% bounce, but look at this, it's still in a bearish trend. But maybe it's a bottom reversal. It could bounce a little bit further, but I would be careful to have a look at and start investing, because it could still really turn sour again. Also, a strong bounce in Alphabet or Google, as we can see, bounced from the 270s but 80 support there, and strong bounce here indeed. But again, it hasn't turned around to become a bullish trend, and we are still in a bearish trend. So be careful, it can suddenly turn sour again. It seems like it was just some bouncing on the back of some buyers coming in, buying the dip. But again, it can push a little bit higher before I think we will turn sour again. But let's see the development here the next few days. On the overall index, the Nasdaq 100, very strong, 3.3% bounce off it from just dipping below the 22,000. We talked about it yesterday that it could do that, and it was likely, and it was indicating, but that was a stronger bounce than I expected. But that's how it is sometimes. We have a strong resistance here up around 24,000. That could be a bit of a struggle, and I'm not sure it will move up above that. If it does, well, then we still have the 200 moving average coming down there. That could be a little bit of a struggle too. So what we can do, we can draw a couple of horizontal lines, especially this one and especially this one. That will be key, 24,465. Here pre-market, it's continuing up a little bit here, as we can see the Nasdaq future. And yes, we can bounce a bit further. And let me just add to this sell-off there and add a Fibonacci to it. Then we can see maybe up to the 24,200. And then I think we will see it sliding back again. The S&P 500 also strong bounce, so almost 3%, 2.9. Back above this resistance here. But we have some strong resistance here in the region around 6,600, and especially up here at around 6,634. That will be a bit of struggle if we get up there, and it can actually also turn around even before then. I'm not quite sure we are out of the woods yet, and if we are looking at the the weekly chart, I have put this in. I actually expected to dip further and then bounce, but I think we will see it also in the coming weeks. We will follow the situation here, and there's still 2 trading days left before Easter, so maybe some profit taking of the dip buyers here or bargain hunters that could be seen pre-market. We see that it's continuing, which is not a big surprise. 66, 13, 14 here is the 786 retracement of this sell-off there. And then, of course, we have the strong resistance there at 6,685. That could be key. But look at this. We have the 55 breaking below the 100 moving average. They're both declining. So that really doesn't tell us that we are going into a bullish trend just yet. It will take some time to establish that. The Dow Jones Index also bounced, of course. Here's the future, and it's just below the 200 moving average, but as we can see, we're still in a bearish trend. Let's see, and there's no divergence on the RSI, indicating likely lower levels. 3.5% bounce in the small caps, and it came after the bounce from the around 239 area there. But you will see also strong resistance up here. I'm not quite sure we will even get up there, but we can have 1 or 2 days maybe with bullish move. I think it could maybe the bullish mood could continue today, but I'm not quite sure about tomorrow, which is actually a bank holiday here in Denmark where I'm sitting, but I think I will do an update regardless. On the Asian market, the Nikkei future, it's always the future we're looking at for Nikkei, bounced yesterday, still 50,250, that is key support. We have I forgot the Hang Seng, sorry about that. Also opening higher, 2.2% here, but still in a bearish trend and has some resistance there, 25,555. Not that strong, but nevertheless it's there. So let's see. Moving on to the European markets that were not bouncing that much in the normalization, but look at this, what happened in the after say. It actually bounced really strongly, so I expect the market to open quite a bit higher and just below the 5,697 resistance. Could it push above it? It could possibly do that, and if it does, well, then there is room up to 5,830 level, but I'm not quite sure we'll get up there. I don't think we will, but it could lift it up, but it is not the strongest one. But let's keep an eye on what's going on there today. The DAX index, let's see what it is pre-market. It bounced strongly in the aftermarket, as we can see here, bouncing further up, and I think we could see it up in the region around 23,500, and then I think we will see a bit of a setback. On the FX market, we saw also a bounce in euro dollar from the minor support there, 144.20. I actually expected to dip to 114, but it didn't. And 114 is really a key support, but it bounced, and I think we'll see it up to 786 retracement there at 115.97. So just below 116. Could push a little bit higher than that. I think it will, but then we have stronger resistance here in the area around 116.40, and then I think we will see setting back. We have the 55 moving average coming down there, 100 and the 200, so that will put a bit of a lid on it. I don't think we will see a trend reversal. However, if it does get back above this level there at 116.40, well, then maybe it could establish a short-term uptrend, but I don't think that will materialize. Sterling dollar bounced off the 131.60 support and could continue a little bit up to the 133, maybe 133.56 area, 55 here. If it takes out the lows there from yesterday, well, then we are looking at 130 level. Euro sterling really on the move. We have sterling really being weakened here, just below the 786 retraced and stalling a little bit, but we are in a positive sentiment now, and could push higher here in coming days and weeks. And let's have a look at what it looks like on the weekly. It was a really strong bounce from around the 200 there, and think we will push higher in the coming weeks. So here we have Keep an eye on this level here around 87.50. I think it could push higher. 55 turned around, 200 still in the rising, 100 trying to drag it down a little bit, but we are above the cloud positive sentiment, likely pushing it higher. Dollar yen, a bit of sell-off yesterday. We're still in a bullish trend. You can see higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, possibly higher low. I think we could see it maybe dipping down to the 158 level and then a bounce, and I think we'll still could be medium term looking at 161, 162 area for dollar yen, but it was just a bit of a correction, I believe. To really turn the tide here, it needs to get back below 157.5. On the euro yen, well, the 100 moving average once again giving some support. We talked about it the past 2 days, and it could crawl back up and have another go at 184.80 resistance here. That is key. If it takes out that, well, then we are looking at higher levels towards 187.50, possibly higher. But for now, it is really not there. If it takes out the lows there, let's just draw a horizontal line. There we are. 182.55. If it takes out that, well, then the key support there at 181.80 will come under pressure. On the Aussie yen, seems to be bouncing here. It dipped below the support there at 109.35 yesterday, and then turn around, and I think we will see a turnaround. You can also see RSI is bouncing from the 40 threshold. So if it keeps bouncing and could move up to test the rising trend line there, then I think uptrend will resume. But if it takes out the lows there from yesterday at 108.75, well, then we will see lower levels, and we possibly most likely see the RSI below 40 threshold, and that could turn it into a bearish trend, taking it lower towards 107.5, maybe even 106 down here. But keep an eye. I think we could bounce here the next further the next few days. So really an interesting level there at the moment. The sterling yen has bounced from the 61.8 retracement there, 209.54, just above that, a few pips above it. If it takes out the lows here, well, then we're looking at 208.5 and 207 down here, which is really key strong support. We have the 100 moving average coming out there. We can see the RSI bouncing from the 40 threshold, so maybe we could have a bounce. But we are below the cloud at the moment. We are also seeing the 55 moving average turn around, so there is pressure to downside. So it's actually caught a little bit range bound here. So keep an eye on those two levels. If it crawls back above the cloud, then we could see it having a go at the key strong resistance there at 213.30. Moving on to Aussie dollar, that bounced off just above the 100 moving average. And these averages are actually quite interesting to look at. You should pay attention to them. So we bounced here yesterday, continuing overnight, despite the fact that we are in negative sentiment and we are in a bearish trend. So let's see how much it can bounce. Stronger resistance here around 69.45, which is also the 38.2 retracement. If it moves it back above that, well, then maybe it could have some energy up to around the 70 level and the upper part of the cloud and the 55 moving average. But if it's being rejected and sliding back, then keep an eye on it. Then it will most likely take out the lows there and push towards a 67, 65 support there. Dollar Canada spiked above the resistance and the peak there, and up to 139.65, and then sitting back. And now I think we will see a bit of a correction, maybe taking it down to at least the 138.50, possibly down to 138, below 38, maybe even to 137.80 here at the 61.8 retracement. But we have the 200 moving average coming up there, giving some support, so it could stop there. And we still have positive sentiment on the RSI, no divergence, indicating higher levels for dollar Canada after a likely correction. Euro Swiss, moving on to directly to Euro Swiss, we have it is above 92. spiked higher, almost up to the 200, and then got knocked back down. But we are still in a positive sentiment. We are in a bullish trend, so it could push higher. But I think after a little bit of a setback, maybe down to around 92, and then I think we will continue the uptrend. But for now, there's some profit taking, sliding slowly back here, and then we will have another upside push, I believe. The dollar Swiss touched the resistance there at 80.40. Really interesting to look at, and now I think we will see it sliding back. And let's put a Fibonacci just on this one. I'm not quite sure I will. This is the best one to do it, but let's work it with it a little bit and let's see, because I think that it is a little bit of a misprint, but I'm not quite sure. It could also be a real one. So 38.2 we are at the moment. I think we will slide back to around 79.50 or 45, where we then have the 200 moving average giving some support. We have the rising trend line there. We could slide back to the 61.8 retracement there at 79.20. So keep an eye on that. But on the overall trend is up. I think we're just merely in a correction phase, and it will turn around. The dollar index that actually closed above the 100.35 key resistance, but then got knocked back down, taking about 50% of this uptrend there. I think we could see it sitting back further to the 61.8 at the 99.36, maybe even down to around the 99 area. That could be seen. We can also see we have divergence here on the R side. The R side declined where market actually pushed higher. Then we have gold that started an uptrend. No, not an uptrend. A very strong move yesterday. We are up above the resistance at 46.58. Above 50% of this sell-off there, and I think we could see it pushing higher above the 61.8 retracement there, 4,800, maybe touching 48.40. That is a strong resistance. I think we could get it up to there, and then I think we will see it setting back again, because we are in a negative sentiment. There's no divergence, and we are also below the cloud here. But expect a further push up here. I think we'll see that going that scenario playing out throughout the day. Silver slowly following it, just around the 100 moving average. I think we could see it up to 77, 78 level here, maybe up to the 61 at 78.90, and maybe even if it really gets its mojo together, up to the 786 retracement there at 83, 84. But then we have the 55 moving average coming down. Then I think it will be knocked back knocked back again. The platinum currently just below the 1997 resistance. I think it will push up above it, and it could give an energy out to around 2100, maybe 2170. But then we have the 55 moving average coming down. That will give it a pressure to the downside. Copper. Strong move yesterday. Could it take 50% up to the 569, maybe up to 580 here at the 61.8 retracement of this downtrend there. But then we have the 55 moving average coming down. If it slides back and take out the 540, then downtrend is resuming. And moving on to the energy market, of course, and let's talk crude oil once again, of course. Yes, the day before yesterday, it actually closed above the 102.42 and pushed higher yesterday, but got knocked back down. So what do we have now? Well, we're still in a bullish trend, but there's divergence here on the R side. You can see R side declining, currently hugging its falling trend line there. So what I will say, if it takes out the peak from yesterday at 106.86, then I think we will see this push up towards the 120 again. If it takes out 99.45, then we could see a setback down to around the 61.8 retracement there at 92, 96, possibly down to around 90 or 89 here at the 786 retracement. So that would be key levels towards Brent Crude Oil. Quite interestingly, 3 times it tried to break above 120, got knocked down every single time. So there's some really strong interest out there to not getting it above there. I don't know if there's some intervention by some of the oil states. I'm not quite sure. I have no idea. But sitting back below the 61.8 retracement could continue further down to the 786 retracement. They're just below 101. Key support at 95. If it takes out that, well, then we can see a massive collapse down to around 81 level. On the European nat gas sell-off yesterday, it hasn't opened here in Europe just yet. Support there at 48.43 and especially around 45.43. The US nat gas, really boring here. As I said, it will most likely just keep sliding lower, and it does. So let's move on to some other things. The US 10-year Treasury yields sitting back, and I think we will see it sitting back further to around 4.25, which is the 38.2 retracement. Could actually push down all the way down to around 4.24.18, but I'm not quite sure. But we have some stronger support down here, and let's just draw, as you see, this area around there. See 4.18. On the European yields, the EU 10-year is sitting back further. Did again yesterday. Could push down to around 2.90, 94 down here in this region. Maybe dipping all the way down to around 2.88. I'm not quite sure, but it's not unlikely. So a bit of correction going on there. If it takes out, and let's just draw that trend line also as we can see it. If it takes out the 287, well, then it can turn around, everything around. But even 294 is key to watch. The UK 10 also sitting back there, and I think we could see it down to around 478, maybe a little bit lower. The Japanese 10-year also currently sitting back a little bit, and I will also draw a Fibonacci to this uptrend there, where it failed to follow through after spiking just above the 238 there. I think we could see it 225, maybe down to around 221. I'm not quite sure we'll get down there, but 225. On the crypto side, well, crypto is trying to crawl back here, and if it can get back above the rising trend line, then it could resume uptrend, and it will be confirmed if we can get back above 72,030. Ethereum, more or less the same picture, and we can draw a horizontal line there too. So there's some resistance there in the region around 2,200. All right, that's all for today. Have a nice day, and be careful out there, and keep charting.